It's August 24th, 2022. Um, my 22 in my shoes, Bija, who I don't call that to his face, but whatever, on CB radio. So, he likes this band, Breaking Benjamin. At some point, he got into it. Um, I've heard Bruce Blakeman is of Ukrainian descent. He's in the county executive for Nassau. I then see tonight they have a Bija looking, which I'll put on in a minute, representative who's in traditional Ukraine um, wear um, that looks with the hand embroidered shirt from the old country. What my son may or may not know is that the my old world, my Italians, my Austrian Italians, um, in whatever empire, since I know there's a few conflicting whatever, and we're currently in Empire State. Um, and he's into this band, Breaking Benjamin, which there's three songs that I like. And then Bija showed me a fourth, which now is playing incessantly on my Pandora's box for whoever's reminding me of whatever. Um, it's called, I think it's Fallen Angel, about I'll carry you on broken wings. Um, my Italian old world side, when Linda used to dress me and put Bavarian or Prussian braids in my hair, something old world in North America, preparing me for I was born of the cow goddess with Janvier, the Skywalker warrior king, whatever. And then there's my astrological projection into this storyline, where then I become this different clockmaker than my mother, and I reproduce hands of time and calendar, which in old world, I mean, old world, new world, old dynasty, new dynasty, imperialistic, whatever. It's what empire runs off of. It's what admirable fleet runs off of. It's what sets the pace for everything else. Um, so I was adorned in these black and red with hand embroidered from the old country um, flowers. Some of the sweaters that were gifted were white. Um, they would come in these boxes with this paper that, I mean, it was just absolutely exquisite, the craftsmanship, um, in gifts to my parents and then to myself. Um, my children did not have that. When Guggenheim moved me, or whoever moved me, to Lloyd Harbor Elementary to stay safe there, um, while I don't know what was going on, I guess agreements were being made, oil partnerships, and they don't even speak of the oil. I mean, there's ingestible, there's the in dry, arid climates, there's the oil that you put on your skin again. The Americans, they don't really distinguish, they just have this one handle. Um, so Jerry Nadler looks very bar association for me, and that's supposed to be the reputable law firm in my heyday in Nassau County. They said that, I mean, I knew one lawyer, JJ Galucio, and he was associated with the Bar Association. And if you have a problem with a lawyer, you go to the bar, BARR. So that's really key and essential, which Benjamin and I have never spoken on. But Jerry Nadler, I see him. I see he looks very Bar. I'm not sure if Bar's the one who gave me the book about Joshua, leading to the Joshua tree. I saw Alexander come over with a shirt saying the Joshua tree. I mean, Yggdrasil is the key word I've seen others use. Anyhow, I heard for the first time Nadler speaking on what he voted for against Maloney. Now, in this phony baloney, I mean, they also mentioned the other night that in Mar-a-Lago, they have bought seats. So if they're bought seats, then the investors are already set at the Empire level in federal. So why are there so many mistakes with the clockmaker and the hands of time? I mean, there is order at some level, but they've left me here dangerously in chaos. So now I'm watching, it's almost like watching the Titanic try to turn around. They redistrict the 10th and the 12th. There was some shuffling. Nadler announces what he voted for in his career that didn't get passed through. To me, seems like broken promises. Biden comes out today and says that he is forgiving some student loan. Are those at the key bought seats in their parties, their respective parties? It's hard to tell when June or November speaking, honestly, and what invested in this disgusting arrangement that led to my being hurt several times, and then cover up after cover up after cover up. So I'm watching this, and now today Nadler's was voted in. I stayed out of it. I don't know what a primary is. I don't know what these candidates were into. I don't know what their new promises are. I don't know if they're going puritanical finally instead of the satanical that looks like they've been working off of. So that's interesting. Um, then they mentioned Andrew back in 1992 was a Cat 5 hurricane. Just recently we had a Cat 5 named Michael. In weather related issues, these are very significant details to what went off rails. When you sit at market maker and you know the hands of time and the children that are the clocks and the clock makers, and you know that they have a specific, I mean, there's no excuse for a mistake at that mystic and mystique level of majestics. There just isn't. So now I'm watching them scramble in how do you turn this Titanic around once like the real. So then there's this abbot from Texas sending busloads of like my contribution to realm is still here in New York. Why am I getting busloads of what does not look familial. So that's happening. 5 more loads of buses arrived today in New York. I also have that up on the screen. In some backlash to whatever's been going on. It's like septicemia in the body of the Christ land. It looks like septicemia. So I'm watching this, and then on comes Abbott Elementary, where what's coming off the buses that Abbott is sending here in baby formula also has this new TV show in who's running the modeling agency. Because what's now, like, I mean, there's some like shared TV spotlight that I'm like forced to watch. It's disgusting. I refuse. So that's happening. So here's what this looks like.
Voting in his Upper West Side district this morning, Congressmember
This
Jerry
was
Nadler
yesterday.
wasted no time hurling political punches at his longtime friend and colleague, Carolyn Maloney.
Carolyn and I have worked on a lot of things together, but I think I have a more principled, progressive record. I voted, and just for a few examples, she voted for the war in Iraq. I voted against it. She voted for the Patriot Act. I voted against it. She voted against the Iran deal. I voted for the Iran deal.
My God, for my children and my sake, how different New York would look in this moment had they gotten any of the striking deals correct at market makers. But it's very clear and evident of what God they're praying to, which is looks like some casino, like Russian roulette, where nobody knows where the white marble's going to fall next by year 2022. And now they're scrambling.
She voted for 700-mile fence along the border. I voted against that.
Maloney, for her part, hasn't been sitting back taking those shots.
Now, I don't know if this Abbott move with this Abbott element that I don't want in New York, but nobody seems to be listening to me for some reason, even though, and I mean, like, I am still NEG priority bloodline. I still have green linen in circulation. There's still a taught history of who's in charge of government in these lands. And yet, for some reason, the backbone of whatever's moving things is moving it in a direction that seems really dangerous for management and government.
Asylum seekers arrived here in New York City today from Texas. The arrivals greeted much the same as last week. Texas Governor Greg Abbott also
who's feeding these? Who's funding them? Who's footing the bill? Since President Biden now thinks he's giving college rebates to the kids, and I know on the forefront, like, they're handing out $10,000, like, oopsies for having them educated in a system that now gets really confusing as to, like, you went from burning books to now printing copies of misinformation and then teaching it to everybody while charging everybody for it. I mean, it's a really sloppy job for some football stadiums?
also criticized Mayor Adams again today. He said the mayor pats himself on the back for welcoming migrants until he has to follow through on promises. The mayor's office accuses Abbott of using the
I mean, how is climate change ever going to get accomplished when all this busy work and busybodies are just being thrown around like pawns on some big checkerboard that like nobody wants to deal with, and it's like, here, you take it. Hot potato. Oh, here's the best. She even says it. Migrants as political pawns.
Until he has to follow through on promises. The mayor's office accuses Abbott of using the migrants as political pawns.
Ukrainians around the world are celebrating the 31st anniversary of their country's independence. But the celebrations will be tempered with concern for their homeland. AP reports at least 15 people were killed today from a Russian attack. And it follows President Zelensky warning his people that Putin would mark the date by unleashing a brutal assault on his country. Eyewitness News reporter Michelle Charlesworth in the East Village with more on how Ukrainians in our area are looking to support their home.
I did hear this word, provocation. I did a little back research on the vocation of where Provo and what the urbanites are making that seem like and what army that is responsive of. And then that leads me back to another symbolic gesture of another rectangle pattern that has a symbol on it that claims, in these lands anyway, they were on the TV the other night, that they gained some independence from Great Britain. And I'm like, right, that's the Great Britain over in the Indian Ocean. How did they cross from Indian Ocean through either the Atlantic or the Pacific? Just curious, like, who allowed that passageway through in the Magellan kids? Because I want to get my Magellan straight, and I'm really confused how people are just shipping themselves and people all over the place and claiming independence when I'm in a land that has a marked message system of currency and numeration, that has a message of the acceptable government that's here and has been here and is working with the authority elsewhere. And great, you claimed independence over there, but who let you out of over there to invade my space? Because it looks like these buses of migrants, it looks like Governor Abbott, white guy, is helping some other country build an army in the state I'm living in. I further look to see just how many in the sheep's field of how many sheep do I have at flock tonight celebrating Ukraine's Independence Day in America. How safe do we make them feel here? There's only like 100 people, according to the news, of their gathering. However, 5 more buses of I don't know how many people, more than 100, just showed up. So what army are they allowing to be built without the permission of the government inside of New York State? I'm just curious who's at the helm of this. I mean, it's espionage. It's an attempt at the government, and it's an attempt to throw over the government that exists, has existed, but somehow is being like just pushed aside for somebody else's agenda, which makes no sense whatsoever. Why would you give somebody else that doesn't belong here? Why would you hand over your home field advantage? Department of Homeland Security, hello. Now, he seems like, I mean, and again, my sons, what they wear here, and they have adorned themselves in since they were teenagers, is American Eagle. That's what they wear. That's their brand. So American Eagle is what their stance has been throughout, with the eagle on it. So this way we don't lose field points of fidelity. But I grew up in clothing that looked very similar to this at a young age. Not necessarily, I mean, that's a man's tunic, but I had Old World, the special blended wool that they had to put not to touch my skin because, again, being of special bloodline, I break out. So I had to have a barrier in between Bavarian cotton, Egyptian cotton, whichever. I don't know what they were selling here at the time.
Ukrainian, and even though I'm still proud to be Ukrainian, but today's definitely not the day to have a big celebration.
Dressed in black today instead of the traditional white for Ukrainian independence, 30-year-old Vitaly says he's in mourning. Sophia gets emotional thinking about all of her loved ones who are still in Ukraine.
In my family,
Still there.
like around 20 people.
So there's this big war going on in Ukraine. There are not many Ukrainians that I can see gathering safely or feeling safe enough to gather in Manhattan. And yet somebody in some other state within the United States of America is shipping in bodies that don't look Ukrainian, don't look American, don't look European, but look like I don't know what. And it looks like that could be a potential national security issue for myself and my children in like a real serious way. But yet I don't hear any effort being made to inform myself or my sons about what their future looks like and how anybody in Mar-a-Lago in June or November is even actively participating and helping them with their future plans. I mean, they've forgotten me completely. I get that. I mean, again, I'm just twinning myself and some like answers to like one of us has access to market makers and it's not me at the moment. So that's a real serious issue in secured bloodlines and in clockmakers and the hands of time. Now here's something else. Here's something else functioning. A committee on health. Nobody asked me if he could be hired. Nobody asked me if he could have this position in New York City, but yet he's commissioned by I don't know whom. And again, it looks like inside New York City, there's some alternate army being shipped in, like reinforcements. And I don't really hear anybody talking about how they're going to protect the children of the government and the children that were born matching the linen that creates numeration and economy.
Generalized epidemic that affects everyone equally currently. And so we've tried to take some caution in putting out billboards and PSAs. We don't currently have COVID-like emergency funds to fund that.
Health officials also meeting today with colleges across.
That's on monkeypox. Oh, now here's what they're showing on the news tonight. Making history. Look at this. 3 champions. I wasn't even offered an athletic anything or chance. I was in some swim competition once. Woohoo.
Shift in Florida.
And now here's Abbott Elementary, which is the name of the show, as the governor of Texas also named Abbott is shipping what looks like reinforcements for this crew to silently build strength in a place that does not look like the government that is here. Does not. I mean, it's a conflict of interest, and it is a national security, like, where do I go?
These new keys I made must be too thick. I blame the locks, honestly.
With a little East Coast swag.
The keys she made. That's interesting. And here's Hurricane Andrew news. 30-year anniversary today. Where was I? Let's see. I was in Cold Spring Harbor, inside of the house, and staying safe with my parents because I was only like, I don't know, 14.
A historic and destructive act of nature on this day 30 years ago. Hurricane Andrew made landfall in Florida with winds over 170 miles per hour and a massive storm surge. Entire neighborhoods were destroyed, and the storm claimed 65 lives. Andrew was originally classified as a Category 4 hurricane, but in later years that was updated to a Category 5 status. 2 days after hitting Florida, Andrew also landed in Louisiana at a weaker strength. Meteorologist Lee Goldberg has more.
Wait, did he say Louisiana like Louis? Just curious. Things have a way in Mother of Nature and clocks, clocksmiths, clockmakers, then the hands of time when they arrive themselves. So it's really interesting for me as to if countrymen were going to leave a Democrat state or country that they won their independence to, and they're surrounded by this Indian Ocean. There are 2 oceans, one on either side, Pacific and Atlantic, of this Indian Ocean. So who let them out? Because I know that you can't just sail. Like, there's charts that in courses that have to be approved, isn't there? Like, FAA is involved with aviation. Isn't there something nautical on the water that has to go through an approval process before they're allowed embargo or embarking and trespassing in foreign lands? Just curious, because if it's not like available, I thought it would be a really good idea to start now, because I don't understand how this ever erupted and then the residents don't even know what's going on. It's star 1978, star 8378. Nicole, Cattaruzza, it's Earth, solar system, Milky Way, universe, galaxy is broken. It's Bayside Station, Bayside, New York, 11361.